Commissioners, Jean Murphy, can't be here and present, but I will video time her so that she can be here in spirit, I guess. And now, we don't know if it's legal for her to vote being here in virtually. So we will ask for her vote, but if it turns out that she can't vote, we will remove her vote. Is that okay with everybody? Okay.
She's traveling back from New York from where she was visiting family.
The protocol for voting, you have to be a resident.
No, it's the commissioners that are voting this evening. It's a vote between the commissioners to accept the negotiations. Okay? So, looks like we got some more people coming in. Yeah, did everybody sign in?
Read those names.
We'll sign in on the way out then, okay?
Before we start the meeting, I do have my raffle tickets tonight. We're doing a 50-50 raffle drawing. I'm attempting to raise money to put grass park into Lake Baton this winter, which is prime time to do it. The drawing will be held next Wednesday at our regular SID meeting, and 50-50 works like whatever you give me, whatever I get in this bucket, half of it goes to the winner and half of it goes to the fish fund. Okay, so if anyone's interested, tickets are $1 a piece, 7 for $5, or an arm's length for 20. And I appreciate your support.
All right, it looks like we have a minute to go, so we'll wait that little minute. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order at 6:30. And Evelyn, can I call on you to do the opening prayer? It's been a little while.
Amen.
And the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let me pull up Jean here. There she is. Hi, Jean. Hi. Okay. All right, all present?
Britt? Lang?
Johnson?
Murphy?
Murphy. Okay. Okay. Motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting when our business is conducted.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor? Okay, all in favor. Unanimous? Okay, we're here today to discuss and vote on the negotiation settlement from the class action lawsuit. Our attorney, Jim Lyons, is here, and he will answer any questions we have. He's going to read the agreement first, and then he'll be open for questions. And then we'll have our vote at the end of that, okay? Okay, you're up.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Jim Lyons. I'm from Jonesboro. I started representing you all in the 90s. We checked today, and then didn't hear from you for quite a while. Then again in 2002, you all had some issue. We did something in 2002, and haven't done anything until recently. But I've represented you off and on over the So I've been doing this a long time. I've been practicing law for 45 years. So anyway, I'm glad to present to you tonight. Deborah Peterson Lumley has filed suit on behalf of herself and all of the taxpayers similarly situated. That is a different kind. It is what is called a class action lawsuit, but it is not your typical class action lawsuit. For those of you who are students of the law and trying to look it up, there Rule 23 of the Arkansas Rules of Civil Procedure provides for class action lawsuits, but this is an illegal exaction suit, and so it's based on constitutional provisions and not on Rule 23 of the Arkansas Rules of Civil Procedure. If you want to read about the illegal exaction lawsuit, you'll have to go to the Arkansas Constitution, not to the Arkansas Rules of Civil Procedure. I may have lost everybody. I'm glad to stop and answer questions if you have a question based on what I have, and then we'll ask questions about the whole thing at the end. But I don't want to lose somebody. It's like you lost me 2 minutes in, and I don't know anything you said after that. So does anybody have any questions about that? All right. So anyway, Ms. Lumley has filed suit. She's filed suit against the city, and the city is represented by Tim Hutchinson. He has done other illegal exaction lawsuits in the state of Arkansas. He did one for, I think, Cherokee Village, did one for some other suburban improvement districts in the area. And so what we have proposed is a joint motion for preliminary approval of settlement. If the commissioners vote in favor of it, then it goes to the court. Anybody that has objections can file objections at the court. There will be notice given. Judge Ralph Ratton is who this is assigned to. There'll be a hearing scheduled at Judge Ratton's court, and he will then hear objections to this settlement. And anybody that wants to voice an objection may get up and voice their objection at that time. If they want to file something, you're welcome to do that. You can file your objection if you want to, but you're not required to. Anyway, that's what will happen. So the parties consent to jurisdiction of the court. What that means is that both sides, both Ms. Lumley and Ozark Acres, agree that the court has jurisdiction, and jurisdiction is the power to hear something. And so we agree that this court has the power to hear this type of case, and it does. I can tell you from 45 years of practice law that, yeah, this is the proper court to be in, so it's filed in the proper court. The settlement agreement described here was approved by a majority of the duly appointed commissioners of the district on the line. That's not been done, but this is a proposed settlement, and if they vote in favor of it, then we'll have a date inserted there, and that will go in there, and that will be part of the order that is presented to Judge Ratton for approval. And anybody that wants to object may object. Anybody that wants to agree with it and wants to get up and speak about that, you're welcome to do that too. But there will be a hearing before Judge Ratton on whether to approve the settlement or not, and make a determination whether he believes that's in the best interest of everybody in Ozark Acres. Everybody who owns property in Ozark Acres has a say in this, and so everybody who is entitled to have a say can get up and speak in regard to that one way or another. The agreement, if approved by the court, will be binding on the class of taxpayers represented by the name of the plaintiff, that's Ms. Lumley, pursuant to Arkansas Constitutional Article Section 16, Section 13. And that is, like I said, there's two types of class action lawsuits in Arkansas. There's Rule 23, which is the normal class action lawsuit that I've participated in before and that I regularly see. This is one that was set up in the Arkansas Constitution, and so it's separate and apart from the Rule 23 class action. Arkansas Rules of Civil Procedure are how you conduct proceedings in a court. And so those are not the rules that apply to this. These Article 16, Section 13 is where you would look. So if you get online and you want to look for the Article of Constitution, you need to look for Article 16, Section 13. So if anybody wants to make a note and look that up, that's where you would go to look at information about that. It says the parties now present to the settlement of the court for preliminary approval. The terms of the settlement are as follows. And there's what's called, lawyers call a sunset provision, and that means that after a period of time, the tax would stop. The Ozark Acres SID taxes would stop. And so it's agreed that the district has, through the years, levied an amount against the original assessed benefit that resulted in the exhaustion of the assessed benefits. When we created the SID, there was a certain amount of assessed benefits. And nobody contacted me to say, hey, we've collected all that money, what do we do? And so it's been continued to be collected. And so it's gone on the tax books, and you all have been paying that. And it's been used for proper purposes, and obviously you can deal with records here to determine that, but it's been used for purposes of improving things within Ozark Acres. Unfortunately, nothing is free, and so to improve your roads, to maintain equipment, excuse me, you've had a officer on staff out here, or maybe not on staff, but hired to come out here to see and check on everything periodically. I don't know how often he does that, but quite a bit. That's going to stop, so there'll be $18,000 that will be reduced that would go into the SID and would be used for other improvements in this, but we'll get to that in a minute. An immediate cessation of the annual levies against the assessed benefit could cause significant harm to the class of taxpayers represented in this action. Specifically, taxpayers would be without funds for continued road maintenance, fire protection, and maintenance of district amenities. In other words, if you don't have money for those things are going to stop immediately. And if that's what you want, then you can get up and voice your objection to this settlement. They would cease immediately. As a result, parties agreed that the levy on the assessed benefits shall be presented, or shall be permitted through the year 2028, which is forward. We assume this probably won't be approved until after the first of the year. If it happens to be approved in December of this year, but we've got to get notice out and all of that thing, so it'll probably be January of 23, and so it would last for 5 years from whenever it is approved, assuming it is approved. For the years 23 through 28, the district is not permitted to levy an amount greater than 8% of the assessed benefit for any lot located within the district, and then for select lots whose borders do not abut a public road. If you have a lot that is not on a public road, then your levy is going to be capped at 6% as opposed to 8%, because part of the money is used to keep up the roads. I've noticed you had a speed bump out here, and I noticed that there was asphalt laid a couple of places out in the road. Things like that. But if you have a lot that is not, doesn't have a public road to it, and you have to drive down a private road or drive through an easement on somebody else's lot to get to your lot, then your assessed benefits would be capped at 6%, not 8%. So then district operations during the sunset period, and that's during this 5-year period from whenever this is approved, assuming it's approved. And I'm reading this as if I assume it will be approved. And I can't guarantee you that because it's up to them, it's not up to me. I don't have a vote in this. Between the years of 23 through 28, and there's a typo in here, you've got 2018, but it's 23, it should be 23 through 28, we'll get that changed. Agrees to post any and all job openings for job posting websites such as Indeed or ZipRecruiter. Further, the district shall post all job openings at the Ozark Acres Clubhouse. So if there's a job here that the SID decides that they want someone to do, then they will post a job description here and tell you what the pay would be, etc. And they will also post it on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or something like that, so that everybody will have an opportunity to apply for that job if they choose to do so. District commissioners shall appoint a budget committee made up of 3 to 5 district residents who shall make recommendations to the commissioners relating to prioritizing of expenses. So if you want to be on that committee, let the people who are the commissioners know, and they will make a decision somewhere between 3 and 5 district residents, and they will be able to make recommendations to the commissioners on the priority of the expenses. Say, first money we get in, we should do this. Next money we get in, we should do this. Next money we get in, we should do this. Districts and commissioners shall terminate the contract, and this I mentioned already, shall terminate the contract with the Sharp County Sheriff's Office, which will result in savings of approximately $18,000 a year. So there will be $18,000 per year that will be added to, or be a reduction in the amount of expenses that the SID is paying for that. If you all don't like that, then you all can come and voice your objections to that provision. For properties carrying a delinquent assessment of benefits, the district shall, upon purchase by a new owner, in other words, if a new owner purchases, but shall going forward collect the annual assessment of benefit from that property throughout the year. So they have to waive, I skipped that and I apologize, shall waive the delinquency for, in other words, if there was a lot that was owned by somebody and they had to pay taxes in 2 years and they sell it to one of you all, the past taxes would not be paid if this is approved, but you would have to pay the taxes for the remainder of that period if the board approved this. The district shall, within 90 days of the court's final approval of this settlement, make available for review and inspection by property owners a listing of all properties, assets, equipment, materials, and inventory owned by the district, excepting only delinquent properties being held by the district, as well as items less than $500 in value. And we proposed a value of $500 just because we didn't want to have to list every pen that the district has, and every pencil, and every sheet of paper, and all that sort of thing. You may think $500 is too high, it should be $250. You can come and voice that objection. So if you have objections to any of this, you're welcome to come and propose that to Judge Ratton, and he will make a decision on that. Any newly elected commissioner shall be required to participate in training or classes offered by the Arkansas Municipal League. The Arkansas Municipal League will generally supply those at no cost, and if so, then the information regarding the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act and competitive bidding requirements for public-private contracts are discussed during those. The district shall set aside $30,000 of the current reserves for purposes of engaging any necessary professionals in order to assist with costs or expenses that will assist the efforts towards incorporating or annexing Ozark Acres. That's the plan for Ozark Acres to be either incorporated or annexed. And if you all have a choice as to one of those, then you need to voice that to Judge Ratton and need to voice that to the commissioners so they can make a decision regarding that. I don't know which would be better for you. I have not investigated that at this time, and I don't know which you all prefer. You may prefer neither one of those, but there's going to have to be something done. Either there's going to have to be creation of a new SID, or there's going to have to be an annexation into a city, or there's going to have to be incorporation of a new town in order for the roads to be maintained, for you all to have fire protection, and to continue to do that after this 5-year period. If you do it before then, I'm sure Judge Ratton would approve that probably, but that's up to him, it's not up to me. So, we have the sunset provision, the provision that expires at the end of 5 years. The district will pay Class Representative Deborah Peterson Lumley $2,500, which represents the amount out-of-pocket costs she's incurred as part of this litigation. She paid Mr. Hutchinson $2,500, and she's going to get that back. The district shall pay plaintiff attorney's fees totaling $25,000, which estimates the amount of hourly charges plaintiff counsel will accrue throughout this litigation. The amounts identified in paragraphs 14 and 15, which are the two that I just read, the $2,500 and the $25,000, shall be paid within 14 days of the court granting final approval of the settlement agreement. Plaintiff's counsel agrees to cover all costs associated with this action from the attorney's fees received. So whatever costs he's incurred, and he traveled to Jonesboro for a meeting, and he may travel to Jonesboro for a meeting, and he'll travel to the hearing. He'll pay all of those costs out of that $25,000 rather than charge you all back to them or charge Ms. Lumley for them. And then there's a release, and it's pretty long, but I'll read it to you. In exchange for and in consideration of the above cited terms, the plaintiff, who is Ms. Lumley, and the entire class of property owners and taxpayers she represents, do hereby irrevocably and unconditionally release, acquit, remise, and forever discharge the SID, the defendant, from any and all rights, promises, obligations, liens, claims, demands, liabilities, actions, and causes of action of whatever kind of nature, in law and equity, in contract, tort, or otherwise, both known and unknown, disclosed and undisclosed, actual and consequential, specific and general. And this is the language that is put in most releases, so it's normal legalese. It may not mean much to you, but basically it says everybody's let off the hook for these things. So that we don't have a claim against Ms. Lumley, Ms. Lumley doesn't have a claim against you. This is so. And it continues, however denominated, that including but not limited to those arising out of or any way connected with the claims brought herein, for any past or present claim, relief or cause of action, no matter how denominated, income from any source, declaratory or injunctive relief, compensatory, liquidated, or punitive damages, wages, money, remuneration, or thing of value whatsoever by the plaintiff against the defendant, by Ms. Lumley against the SID, including without limitation and allegations, causes of action, claims of action, or matters caused by or arising out of or related in any way connected with the rights afforded to the property owner or taxpayer of whatever character or nature of plaintiff with defendant, and or arising, relating to, or covered by any federal, state, local ordinance, state, act, statute, act, custom, usage, rule, or regulation, including without limitation any cause of action which could have been stated herein. It's the express intent of the plaintiff to enter into this full and final settlement and compromise of all claims against the defendant, whatever, arising out of events occurring to including the day of execution. In other words, she's giving up all of her claims too. It's understood, agreed, and stipulated between the parties hereto that the consideration described herein is full and in complete accord, satisfaction, and discharge of any all doubtful or disputed claims whatsoever. The plaintiff stipulates, as Ms. Lumley, and agrees not to initiate, join in, continue, and/or institute any legal proceedings or process based on the within described claims or cause of action before any administrative, judicial, or other forum against the defendant whatsoever, except to the extent necessary to enforce this agreement. So, if for some reason the SID didn't live up to this, then she can take action. As long as the SID lives up to this, then she can take no other action. Defendant does not, by virtue of this agreement, admit liability to anyone or any entity as a result of any incident, act, or omission described in or cognizable by the aforementioned claims or causes of action. The agreement is entered into for the sole purpose of settlement and compromise. It's stipulated and agreed that this agreement and the negotiation of the parties resulting in this agreement shall not constitute admissible evidence of any matter for any purpose whatsoever, other than for the sole purpose of a claim of a breach of this agreement. In other words, negotiations between the parties are what's called part of the settlement agreement under Arkansas law. And settlement agreement negotiations cannot be used for you or against you in a court of law. In other words, otherwise, nobody would ever talk in settlement, because then they could use it against you. They'd say, well, you admitted that you did this, or you denied that you did that. And so, in order to avoid that, Arkansas has a law about confidentiality of settlement negotiations, and that simply memorializes that. All members of the class, a person or entity that has owned property within the Ozark Acres Suburban Improvement District since the filing of this action on September 7th, 2022, are eligible to object to the above described settlement. This is what I told you about, you can come and object to. Since the filing of this action on September 7th, they are eligible to object. Reasonable notice shall be provided to members of the class explaining the rights to object, and then there's a proposed notice attached here to incorporated by reference herein. Any person objecting to the settlement will be instructed to file a notice of objection in this case with the Circuit Court of Sharp County, describing the factual and legal basis. Such objection must also be served on the Honorable Ralph Ratton, Circuit Court Judge, lead attorney for the plaintiff's class, Tim Hutchinson, and attorney for the district, Jim Lyons. Such as corporation to LLC must be represented by an attorney, but if you're an individual or a husband and wife and you want to file something yourself, you can do that yourself. Regardless of who it is, they must sign the notice of objection in accordance with the Arkansas Rules of Civil Procedure. All objections must be filed within 30 days of the published notice. The court will establish and set procedures for consideration of any objections. Although he says this has to be filed, I anticipate if you really want to speak at that hearing and say, Judge, I'd like to be heard in reference to the objection made by Mr. Smith or Ms. Jones or whomever, then I anticipate that the judge would allow you to do that. And that's the reason I said you can show up and object. But the proper way to do it is to file an objection and to show up at the hearing. The parties agreed that within 14 days of the court's entry of an order act setting forth its preliminary approval of the parties' settlement agreement, the district shall post a notice at the Ozark Acres Clubhouse and publish a notice of the news in a newspaper with broad circulation in and around Sharp County. The parties submit herewith as Exhibit B a proposed order of preliminarily approving settlement for the court's consideration. Those were actually not attached to this, and this is what it is. Tim said he would get those to me, and unfortunately I have not gotten those as of tonight. So that's the whole settlement that is being proposed. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm not good with legal terminology.
No, I understand.
The brain Catherine goes numb after about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Does this mean that you're voting to agree to shut down the SID in 5 years?
Yes. Or sooner.
Or sooner.
If you decide to annex or you decide to incorporate. That gives a maximum period of 5 years. It has to be shut down. And so if this got approved, then you got 5 years within which to do that. And you're going to have to do something to continue to have road maintenance, etc. And that's the reason that that is in there for 5 years, because that's going to give you plenty of time to decide what's best for you all. And I don't know what's best. You all are going to have to tell us that, and then the commissioners will vote, and everybody will get to vote on that and express their objection. Yes, sir?
What would be some of the worst case scenarios in that 5 year period if nothing would come up, annexation or municipality? What would that look like?
Well, if nothing came of that for whatever reason, you didn't get annexed, you didn't incorporate, then at the end of 5 years, there wouldn't be any more taxes, but you also, then everybody'd have to start contributing somehow, some way to maintaining the roads. You wouldn't have any fire protection.
You wouldn't have any lakes.
You wouldn't have any lakes because the dam wouldn't be maintained. Anything that's maintained by the SID, they wouldn't have any money to do that, and so those benefits to you would go away. Unfortunately, those cost money. Nobody likes paying taxes. I know that. I hate paying taxes. Every one of you all probably hates paying taxes, but some of those things benefit us. Some of them we're paying taxes for somebody else to benefit from. And we can talk all day about who gets the most benefit from your tax dollar or my tax dollar, but there's no good answer to that. Unfortunately, we have to rely on our government to make those decisions. Sometimes they're good ones, sometimes they're bad ones. Sometimes you may like the decision they make, sometimes you may not. You can express those to your representative or to your congressman or to your commissioner or whomever. And that's the reason that we're going to have appointed a group of you all, 3 to 5 of you all, so that you all can make a determination. Okay, here's priority number 1. We think we ought to incorporate. We think we ought to become our own town. So we think we ought to incorporate. So let's spend the most money there and see if we can get that done quickly. Others might say, no, I'd rather be annexed by Williford or Hardy or whatever. And then you all would have to make that decision on what's best for you. And I can't tell you what's best. I don't know what's best for Ozark Acres. But I can tell you that if you don't do something at the end of 5 years, then there are going to be no taxes paid, no taxes collected in regard to the SID, and everything that's being done by the SID with their money, whether you agree or disagree with it, there are certainly things that are being done. Some of those you may like, some of you may not. You may be a fisherman, you may use the lake. That may go away because the dam won't be maintained. Your road might not be maintained, whatever. Yes, ma'am.
The cities around us, Hardy is not interested in annexing this because of the expense. Or we would heard that. Wilford doesn't have the money to support the maintenance here. So really the only option would be incorporation. What are the requirements in Arkansas for incorporation as far as what we would have to have? Do we have to have a mayor, a police force, or a fire department? What do we have to have if we incorporate?
Yeah, you're going to have to incorporate it. Then there would be documents that would be created that would tell us those things that we have to have. And it depends on what class of city you are, how many residents there are here. I haven't investigated that because I didn't know how many year-round residents there are. So it will depend on that, but I'll be glad to tell you some later time so that everybody will know, and I'll be glad to send a letter out to everybody saying, if you incorporate, you be a city of this class, these are the things that you can have. So that you're not doing it in the dark. I don't want anybody to not know what's going on. That's not the purpose of any of this. The reason I'm here is to allow you to know what's going on. And I'm glad to explain that to anybody once I investigate that, on how many people, once I find out how many residents and what class we would be, on what you'd have to have. I'd be glad to tell you, and I can send a letter to the commissioner. I can send it to everybody. If you write me, my name's Jim Lyons. I'm in Jonesboro.
We have started it a little bit with an opinion gathering group of just residents of saying these are kind of our options, and we have sent out some letters to get some feelers to get everyone's input as far as, so we've at least started the process,
Okay.
just a little.
Good. Yes, sir.
Now, if we incorporate as a municipality, will that allow more, say, such as like grants and stuff like that?
Yeah, you can
State
apply for
local governments
grants
to be able to pay
municipality,
for
absolutely.
these type things that you're speaking
Yeah,
of.
now what you would qualify for, I don't know. I don't do grant work, and so I can't tell you what you might qualify for or you wouldn't qualify for, but yes, as a municipality, you are allowed to apply for grants, and cities do that all the time.
That's the important part. We're allowed to apply for them. We can apply for them. Right now, we can't apply for them at all.
Yeah, I knew as an SID we couldn't apply for grants, but if we go to a municipality, we could, and that
Yes.
would cover some of the expense that we'd be using.
Absolutely.
And we will
And
also get turn back money for the roads, which we can't use.
there are a lot of grants out there. I know I was at a city council meeting in Jonesboro the other night, and they'd gotten a $1.5 million grant from somebody for certain things. And so you just have to have somebody write the grant for you. I don't write grants, I don't deal with grants, but I can tell you, yeah, you can apply for grants, definitely.
Using Cherokee as an example, that's incorporated town, city.
Yes, sir.
Why, and I'm not pro or con about commissioners and the SID, but they still have SID, or am I mistaken? Does Cherokee still have an SID commissioner?
I think that they still have one, but I think they're under a sunset provision, and I'm not sure when theirs ends. Maybe in 26.
What will more than likely happen if we decide to become a town or something like that? We can still keep the SID for a couple of years and donate our roads to the town. And all the money that the town can get can go to fix our roads. And the money that the SID would bring in would go to the other amenities here. But it won't be for, a long period of time. It would just be enough to get us up and running. So if we got up and running in, say, 3 years, then we could dissolve the SID in 3 years and just have the town.
I was just curious why Cherokee still had.
Well, I'm sure that's probably why.
Yeah, they're under the same type of sunset provision. And so their SID is going to end, and I'm not sure the date it's at because I was not involved in that. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned something about Sharp County would no longer be patrolling our area. Who would be the law enforcement?
Well, Sharp County is supposed to be. I know they don't come out here as much as you all would like, and that's the reason that you hired an officer. But some people have complained about what he was doing. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I've never been up here, never seen him, don't have any idea. This gentleman at the back has a sheriff's deputy shirt on, it looks like.
Yep.
And he may be the guy that does it. I don't have any idea. But anyway, that will be terminated, and so
The
that-
county will still come out and take care of us. If you call
If you call.
911, they're gonna come out. It's not like they're gonna abandon us. Right, Ashton?
Right.
We just don't get the extra.
We don't get the
You don't get the
extra.
extra time, and that was because there was a big chunk of money that people felt was an easy way to cut.
Yes, ma'am.
Like I have said before, Sharp County does not have enough officers. When I first came up here, I was dispatching. We needed an officer. There's one officer for the whole south end of the county. I mean, you call somebody, somebody's beating you up, you may not even get somebody there to you. I just think we need an officer. I hate paying money too for our protection. And before, we got security guards, everyone. We had drug houses. There was one 2 doors down from my house. There were 2 shootings where a man was killed up on North Summit Ridge. There's meth going on. There's just too much going on. We can't do it. I've had such.
Yeah, and I understand that, and so, maybe something that you all prioritize and say, well, we want to hire a private security officer, but the amount's going to be substantially less than the $18,000 a year, and allow him to do that.
Okay, the security officer, I don't believe can write tickets.
No, he can't, that's
So
correct.
he would have to have an officer come out here.
Right.
And then he may not be
That's
able to
correct.
stand here and wait for an officer to come in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have the perfect answer for that. If Sharp County doesn't have enough officers to make it out here quickly, then unfortunately, that's just a product of living in this area, which is not highly populated. Yes, sir.
All of these possibilities came when I was a commissioner about 10 years ago. And a lot of these people seem to be in favor of incorporating, but let me ask you a question. What's going to support this town? You got that money coming in from something. So if you become a town, what's going to support it?
It all depends on what you guys decide to let into the town to support the town.
Liquor
If
store.
you decide to have a liquor store, then yes.
Yeah.
If you decide to have a Dollar General, then yes. If you decide not to have those things, then no. This is up to you guys. Do you get that? This is up to you. Something has to change. You can't stay this way. We can't do this anymore. We can do this for a couple of years. We can help you try to keep your lights on. We can help you try and keep your roads patched. We can help you keep the lakes living and owned by these people that live here. But it's up to you guys to decide what you want and where you're going to find that money from when you stop paying your assessments. Okay? That's bottom line. Okay? We will do whatever we can to help you make this a great transition and make this a good thing going forward. But it's out of our hands.
Yes, ma'am.
I agree with what Lana said. My husband was commissioner when we got our first deputy. Because we had other people that tried to patrol these streets, didn't we, Lana? And Wes, you're right. We had a lot of thieves, we had a lot of robbers, we had a lot of drugs out here.
And I'll just be truthful, being the younger generation, nobody really takes a security guard seriously.
You're absolutely
I'll be
right.
honest with you, somebody that's my age, I'm gonna laugh at one. If I'm into doing something wrong.
No, and I understand, and there's no perfect answer to it. It may be that they would agree to do something on a reduced basis, that would be approved. They wouldn't be out here as much, but they would be out here some.
And that's the thing about becoming a town also. We will still have the SID for a little while. The town can hire somebody to do this.
And you're
That's
correct.
what we're gonna
There's
have
going to be
to
city,
do.
if you're a city tax.
Cherokee Village just got a new grant for an additional cop car, an additional cop. They were able to add on to their city with grant money because they're a city. That would be full-time, which, Ashton, you're here 88 hours a month, right?
80.
Give or take, or
Is it 20 a week? Yeah. Okay. So in a 4-week period, he's here 80 hours. That other 592 of that whole month, we're depending on Sharp County. We're not depending on Ashton.
Yes, ma'am.
At what point did someone file for a business license or something like that? Do they have to wait until it's?
We have to wait
So
until
this
we
is all
figure out
the same time
everything.
now?
No, we have to wait until all of this is taken care of, and then we decide if we're gonna become a town or whatever we're gonna be. Then there's gonna have to be,
New
new
bylaws.
bylaws.
The
new-
BOAs will have to be,
But shouldn't you know whether or not you become a town, whether or not you're gonna have so many businesses, even if there's even an interest, you know?
I'm sure there will be an interest, because I have had a couple of people ask me about it. And my thing is, I really don't know at this point,
right.
but there's a possibility.
And to be honest, there's a couple of businesses already here in Ozark Acres that we can't publicly acknowledge and support. And they're our own community. But we can't do that because of our BOAs. So becoming our own municipality, we're gonna research what we have to do to allow them in so that they can support their own community.
So they have to pay taxes to somewhere.
Yeah, they have to pay taxes. You know, you can have city license taxes, you can have all sorts of taxes that they would have to pay.
So between now and then, you really don't know anything, you can't do any homework as far as what we can have in this community or anything to let us decide?
No, but I mean, we can research that. If you all say, well, we want to incorporate, and that's what everybody says we need to do. I mean, we can research that and tell you that pretty quickly. And, you know, it may be something you all do in 6 months. I don't know how long it's going to take you all to make a decision on that. But, you know, the sooner you do it, as far as I'm concerned, the better, because then you get, start getting things rolling toward having the amenities that you want. But unfortunately, all those cost money. And so it's going to depend upon how much you all are willing to pay. Yes, sir.
Back to incorporated, when you incorporate a town, you become eligible for state turnback.
Correct.
And Hardy can tell you exactly how much that is, they know.
I think somebody researched that, they said we could get like $209,000 a year
A lot
for
of money
turnback.
involved, and then you have franchise fees on your electric, water,
Exactly.
all of those things, and when you put all that
And the
together,
internet, the
you're getting
telephones.
a lot of money coming in, that you might not get now.
Right.
And, you know, the incorporation is one way to go, may not be the best.
So, but, well, we want to research it and find out what's best for us.
And I don't know if Sharp County collects road improvement taxes in Ozark Acres or not.
Oh, I'm sure they do, but we don't get the turnback money for it because we're an
I don't
SID.
know, I've never noticed it on my tax bill. I get one from Mississippi County, it's always on there.
Yeah.
Road improvement, all kinds of stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's no turning back and going back just to the city. This is,
Well, you could start another SID and have it last for X number period of time and say, we've decided we don't want to incorporate, we've decided we don't want to, nobody will annex us that can support us, and so we want to create a SID for this purpose, for this period of time. The problem with that is that SIDs have provisions where they're supposed to stop. And so then you'd be right back in the same boat where you're gonna have to turn around and do it again. And, you know, my time's expensive, and you don't wanna have to be paying me every time you turn around to do that. But I mean, I'm glad to do it, but I got plenty of work, and so, I mean, I'm certainly not begging you to do that, because I've got plenty of stuff to do. Yes, sir.
Is there any oversight from anyone on SID committees? I mean, who watches over those people to do the right job?
Well,
I already had that done.
yeah, I mean, as far as oversight, they have a fiduciary responsibility to the SID. You all may disagree with how they spend money, and that's the reason that we're appointing that committee to make recommendations to them on your priorities. So if you want to be on that committee and you put your name in the hat, and they say, fine, you're selected, then you're going to get to put your proposals on there, and they'll get to make a decision on that. And if you want to incorporate, you decide to do that in a year, then they'll only be commissioners for another year, and at the end of that, then you'll incorporate.
Municipal league usually a good source of information, and I don't know if SID belongs to the municipal league
Yes, we
or not.
do. Yes, we do.
Probably the best thing going in Arkansas.
Yeah. And you pay money to belong to the municipal league, and then
They
they
also sell
provide,
insurance, that would,
yeah. And they essentially provide you insurance too.
Yeah. Okay, Priscilla has a question.
I don't know if I was sleeping, no, I'm just kidding. When you said this, did anyone hear about elections out there? Did anyone hear that? Or did he actually skip that paragraph that I think he skipped?
Did I skip one?
He did.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
I'm sorry.
just thought of that.
So, right, because I was sitting here thinking, I don't think we talked about the election part. And then I didn't
Yeah.
make notes in my little column over here, so I think we did skip it.
Okay, well.
Page
Number
number
11.
Yeah,
Number
page
11.
3, number
Okay,
11.
I'm sorry, and
That's
I
okay.
apologize for that. In order to ensure compliance with this settlement agreement for at least the first year, the district election of directors shall be moved to the second Tuesday of November, beginning in 2023, and continuing thereafter until subsequently modified by action of the board until dissolution of the district. So if you're unhappy with what they're doing, then run for it, and next November, there'll be new commissioners. So if you don't like what they're doing, then run for the position of commissioner.
But that is moving the election date from when we held it in March
To November.
to November.
So we won't have an election in March.
No, we'll have it in November this year.
Which gives us time to try and be held accountable to this, and you guys time to hold us accountable to this.
Lana?
No, John.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, or you can explain this. This is the continued existence of District 239. Suburban Improvement District shall not cease to exist upon the acquiring, construction, or completion of the improvement, but shall continue to exist for the purpose of preserving, maintaining, and operating the improvement, replacing equipment, paying salaries to employees, and performing any other functions or services authorized in this subsection. To this end, the Board of Commissioners may from time to time make such additional levies based upon the assessment of benefits as may be necessary for these purposes. However, the amount of the total levy shall not exceed the assessed benefits and interests thereof. So is that saying that we have to keep a SID because it's saying maintaining?
No, there's a difference. You all could keep a SID, but there would have to be new assessed benefits. Or you can form a new SID and have assessed benefits for that. But you have to go through the assessment process, and then each lot gets assessed for a certain amount, and the taxes may change as a result of that. But that's a statutory provision, and the Constitution controls over the statutory provisions. But you could do that if you decided to do that and say we want to, maintain this SID. We decided we don't want to annex. We decided we don't want to incorporate. We want to do a SID and assess benefits, and we'd have to go through that process to do that and assess new benefits. And every lot would be reassessed, and the benefits would be applied, and the taxes might go up, they might go down. I can't tell you how they would change. It would be dependent upon what all they intend to do and what the assessed benefits are.
And that those assessments for each individual lot would be paid for by the SID, correct?
Well, no, they're paid to the city.
But the
No, the
assessment,
assessment, the reassessment of every individual lot in order to come up with a new assessed benefit
That comes
would
out
be
of city's
paid
money.
for
Yeah.
by the city.
Yeah,
Okay,
So
4,000 lots that we would have to have reassessed.
So really, we couldn't afford to bring
No
that
way.
to sit. So that's.
I mean, I can't remember, it's been so long, it's been 25 years ago or however long it was, when this was originally formed. Honestly, don't remember whether it was 30 years ago or when it was, but it was a long time ago,
79.
79.
That's 40-something years.
Yeah.
Right, and it should have been done way sooner than now, after 79.
From Iowa, the city, these are nothing.
They're nothing, you're right, they're 33 cents a day, they're 33 cents a
I was
day.
paying Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
I just can't, I know.
The taxes, if you moved here from Chicago or
Yeah.
Iowa
And you're sitting here.
or a place like that, the taxes here are, you know, pennies on the dollar for what you pay. But the benefits are less too.
Amen to that.
The benefits are less because you're not paying as much. And so you get the benefit of having more money, but you also get the detriment of not having as many benefits. You don't have as many police officers, you don't have as much fire protection, you don't have as much patrolling, you don't have as many lights, you don't have as much money spent on roads, that sort of thing.
do we have any more questions, Lana?
Some people complain that why am I still paying SID assessments if they've been paid off? I've asked before that I'd like to see on paper where they are paid off. I mean, I hope they are, but I'd like to see it.
Yeah, that's fine, we can provide that.
Okay, because I've got here, I've got the prime interest rate and the assessed rate, and I've got the levies from, I think, all the years, how much the interest was for it. So mine shows they're not paid.
Okay.
Well, that was part of the original agreement that we have to provide that within that 90 days, right?
Right,
That we
right.
have to come up with all of that information. We have to compile all of that information in addition to our inventory of all of our assets and such.
So with that being in the settlement, saying that they are exhausted of the assessed benefits,
I mean, if that's incorrect, then I need to know that. So
Well-
send me what you've got and I'll be glad to look at it.
so how can we vote on it with that being in there, not really knowing?
Well, I think that you'll find that they have been paid off. You know, I don't know how you calculated that, but they should have been paid off well before this.
I know Mr. Hutchinson figured it out.
Yeah, and, I mean, Tim did the work on that, and I can get with him and see what he's got to show that, and be glad to
I
provide
have your
that
copy
to you.
of this.
Okay, great. Yes, sir.
There was a letter that went out in 2012, I believe, when the big reassessment took place, explaining the reason for that assessment. And there was something in there about interest rates and what the reason that this hadn't been paid off, but I can't recall exactly what it said. I don't know. That's
I wasn't a commissioner at that time, so I can't answer that question. I know that stirred up a lot of trouble, and then the next commissioners that stepped in reduced it again. In my opinion, it should not have been reduced, but that's what they did.
Some of the assessments really,
They went up about $50 maybe a year. A lot maybe for a year,
over that.
so, but mine didn't go up a lot. So,
I'll take it off.
I have the original formula, and I've got the formula from when they changed the assessment, and it shows how much more they went up.
Yeah, and I wasn't involved in the change of
questions?
Yes, sir.
This goes back to the incorporation of do you or don't you, and grants. And almost all grants start with the per capita income. And I'm assuming in Ozark Acres, the per capita income is way down below the threshold for applying for grants. That's why you see these small towns getting these big grants, not
Right.
County Jonesboro.
Right.
Well, I talked to the USDA and he said with an incorporation, they go by, they call it the non-metropolitan medium household income. And they go off of census numbers. So they're still working with the 2010 census because they're not finished with the 2020 census. And that's $40,000 of the median household income is their grant. If you're over that, you don't qualify.
Right.
It was about 35, so they went up there.
Yeah, and it might go up again when they get the new 2020.
It probably will go up.
Right.
And that's the 2020
The
census.
lower you are, the better off.
And the better, and the more you have, they offer more. That's one of the main things that they look at is the people here in our community. If we're only bringing in 25 to 27,000 as a median household income because we are so rural, we qualify for a lot.
I've seen some grants for street improvement, big.
Williford got it last year, driving from Lawrence, all through Lawrence County, they just resurfaced there because they qualify for it.
And that's
You got
one,
hiccups?
that's one of the reasons they did incorporate.
I'm shaking. I
We
don't
don't
like
hardly get it.
Right?
We don't hardly don't need it.
Okay, so.
Okay, are there any other questions before we go ahead? We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna vote on this tonight. And,
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
okay,
If they vote to accept this,
Yes, sir.
if the SID taxes are paid or are not paid in full, does it make any difference? I mean, if the past SID evaluations have been paid,
Well, the SID's going to continue and will continue for a period of up to 5 years.
Right.
And
but I guess
so-
my question is, if the valuations have been paid, they will still be paid.
Yeah, you will still be
It doesn't make a
paying.
difference if it's been paid off or not been paid off. Once they make this agreement, those payments will continue.
They will
correct.
continue
8%.
until you either incorporate or annex or start over with another SID.
Okay.
So we would still continue to pay until the decision is made on whether or not we go to municipality, start another SID or anything
Well,
like that.
we will keep the SID.
Until that actually happens.
A couple
It's
years
not-
after we're.
That's
Well, yeah,
not
we
necessary
understand. We still
either.
gotta
That's
have-
not necessarily
still gotta
right
have a
either. We
budget.
don't know.
Right, we still
We're
have,
still gonna have a budget to be able to.
Right.
Correct. So this gives us 5 years to have somebody running the show, so to speak, keeping the lights on. If we decide to incorporate, we don't hold elections for a newly incorporated town for 1 year after incorporation. Somebody has to be overseeing what's happening with the money of the town during that time. So that
And that-
allows the SID to do that.
I do believe a judge, when you become a town, appoints the
Point.
mayor and so forth.
No, not from what I read. If we incorporate it into our own town, you do not hold elections. The SID would continue to maintain the management and overseeing of things. And
I don't think we can because we can't.
for
mix
1 year,
up.
because you cannot hold elections for a year after you are incorporated, your first election.
Well, I can research it.
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
also check, because I think because you can't mix your money in the town.
So, Mr. Lyons, what this says is that if somebody says, well, you're saying that they're paid off, they can't come back and say, but you're still charging me, I don't want you to charge me, so they can't say that.
Right, they can't say that because this is agreeing that they will continue until you either incorporate or you annex or you start another SID.
Or 5 years and nothing.
I'm sorry?
Or 5 years and nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
But 5 years is the most that it can continue.
That is correct.
well, I mean, and if enough people, I guess, go to the hearing or say,
Right,
we want it dissolved
right.
right now, then okay, see,
Yeah.
then we're at the mercy of Sharp County
Right.
for however long it takes.
Yeah, I mean, if the judge doesn't, this isn't a done deal.
Right.
I mean, even if they vote to approve it, or they vote not to approve it, then the judge could still say, I'm gonna go forward with, Tim say I'm gonna go forward with the suit, then you're gonna spend money with me, we're gonna spend lots of money on attorney's fees fighting this, and we may end up in the same position anyway, because the judge may grant this down our throat. And so, you know, it's not a deal that I took lightly. It's not something that I recommended to them, that I think that this is a reasonable proposition, which will give you all time to make a decision.
Okay, Don?
There's not a perfect way to do this.
So are any of you, some checking into annexing, some checking into incorporating?
Well,
That's what that letter that we sent out a couple weeks ago with the opinion gathering letter that literally said like.
So right now, no one's talking to anyone of you guys I'm talking to?
Not yet.
No.
We're gonna, we have to wait until after this gets settled.
We
And
can't
we have
talk.
to,
We can't talk to
and
each other.
we really have to wait until January to even talk to Hardy because
The Hardy,
the people, the mayor is a new
Just got
mayor.
elected.
Ethan Barnes won the election, so it's more than, we won't be talking to Ernie Rose, we will be talking to Ethan Barnes.
Okay.
But for all intents and purposes, until this all gets settled, we still have Ashton here, everything's gonna stay the same.
Well, Ashton, that contract will end with Ashton.
Not until the judge.
Yeah.
Approved.
Yeah.
If this is
If this is
approved,
approved
So I'm
by
saying
a
up
judge.
until-
then
Yeah, up
it's
until,
stopped.
yeah.
Yes, right.
Everything's
Yes.
set forward.
That's correct.
Okay, so,
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
And if we incorporate, the money that Sid has collected up to that point, what happens?
It'll be spent on the incorporation most likely.
Okay, and if there's any left,
Then-
then does it go to the town or?
Yeah, it
how
would.
do we-
We'll have a party.
I certainly anticipate that they would simply turn it over to the town.
Okay.
We would do the same thing with the lakes and the park and the fire department, everything that's under city
Turn
control
all
would be
that,
given.
all
It
the
all
assets,
comes,
whatever
right.
they may be, road maintenance equipment, mowers,
And
stuff to
liability.
maintain the dam, buildings.
everything
all that
would be
sort of thing.
gifted to the town.
We get to get the bad stuff too, right?
They get the good and the bad. I know from what they told me, you've got a road grader that doesn't work.
Well, it does now.
Okay.
My road got graded today, so.
Okay, great. Glad it works. But for a while, it wasn't working. And so, you know, the idea is to have money to be able to keep things running.
Okay. Are we done? Do I have a motion to accept the settlement as,
I make a motion that we accept the joint motion for preliminary approval of settlement as presented by our attorney, Mr. Lyons, that we have copies of as it is written.
do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor? Jean's showing she's in
Hand up.
favor.
Abstain.
Okay, Ron has abstained.
Okay.
Until I find out more information.
So we have
Four-
three or four
four-
votes,
four-
depending on whether or
and
not
one
that's.
abstain. Yes.
Yeah. All right, that is it. I want to thank all of you for coming.
I make a motion for that we adjourn the meeting.
Oh, yep, okay, because I second.
I second.
Thank you. All right. All in favor?
Yeah.
I'll stay here if anybody has questions. I'm glad to talk.
Just out.